Welcome to Khanversations. I'm Muqtedar Khan, your host, and today I'm going to talk to you about what's happening in the Indian subcontinent from Pakistan to Bangladesh. Religious minorities are being oppressed, they are being targeted, they are being killed in large numbers, places of worships are being attacked legally and violently, businesses of religious minorities are being targeted, whether they are Muslims, whether they are Hindus, whether they are Christians. Apparently, no minority, no religious minority is safe in the Indian subcontinent. So I'm going to talk to you about 4 cases today. I'm going to talk to you about Kurram in Pakistan, where Shias have been killed. I will talk to you about Manipur, where Hindus and Christians, and to a great extent Christians, are being killed in Manipur. I will talk to you about Sambhal, a small city in Uttar Pradesh, where 5 according to some reports, and 4, according to most reports, young Muslim men have been killed because their mosque was being surveyed. And then I will talk to you in the end about Bangladesh, where there have been literally over 2,000 attacks on the Hindu minority in Bangladesh, and their places of worship have also been targeted. It's a sad story that I'm going to tell you. It's tragic. It is counterproductive. There's nothing good about it. It is just a horrific tale of oppression, intolerance, hate, violence, and the culpability of states in all these crimes. So today I'm going to talk to you about the plight of religious minorities in South Asia, in the Indian subcontinent. But before that, please subscribe to Khanversations, like this video, press the bell icon, and don't forget to share this video with your socio-political network. If you find my voice meaningful, and if you find that Khanversations helps you understand difficult situations better, then do consider becoming a member of Khanversations, join the channel, and support it. So let's first talk about what happened in Kurram. Kurram is that beak-like part of Pakistan that protrudes into Afghanistan. It is probably the closest, the shortest distance between Pakistan and Kabul goes through Kurram, the place. So in the past few months, there have been a lot of sectarian violence going on in July, in August, September, October. Sunnis and Shias, primarily Shias, have been killed. And then in the last few days, there was a convoy of Shias going on some kind of pilgrimage, and they were all attacked. The suspicion is that they were attacked by Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan people who hide in Afghanistan and commit acts of terrorism, and also target civilian and military law enforcement agencies in Pakistan frequently. So it is the TTP, Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, which is suspected. But anyway, whatever it was, a large number of Shias were killed in that attack. And subsequently, there have been back and forth, and now it's about 107 people have been killed in Kurram in the past few days in sectarian violence. The brunt of the violence suffered by Shia, who constitute a minority in Pakistan. They are 15% of the population. This is a province which is governed by Imran Khan's Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, the PTI party, and their leader, Mr. Gandapur, or whatever you want to call him. He was busy protesting in Islamabad. He took his forces and his people all the way to Islamabad to demand the release of Imran Khan. He was not paying attention to the law and order situation in his own province. His first duty is to his province. And while people are being killed and massacred, this man walked away. This has been a situation for more than two decades in Pakistan. The Saudi-Iranian tensions often translated into sectarian violence between Shia and Sunni groups. In Pakistan, there are lots of militia groups, Sunni militia groups, which have targeted Shias, and Sippe Sahaba and others like that. So this is not a new development, and it is a pretty tragic thing that Pakistan, which claims to be an Islamic state and an Islamic society, which was created to safeguard the interest of Muslims of South Asia, all it can do is kill Muslims of South Asia. So the Pakistani government has simply failed to provide basic protection to the people of its own country. So that is one egregious example of how even though Pakistan is nearly 95, 96% Muslim, a Muslim minority sect is unable to find peace and security in the so-called Islamic Republic of Pakistan. Not only that, but there are other religious Muslim minorities along with Hindus who also feel unsafe in Pakistan. And we know about how Hindu women are, young Hindu women, ladies are captured, young women, and forced into marriages and forced into conversion. There are actually mullahs in Pakistan who are free at the moment, who brag that they have done over 1,000 kidnappings of Hindu young ladies, whom then they forcibly marry to Muslim men and convert them. So basically, Pakistan has a terrible record of taking care of its minorities. And so that's the first part of the story. The second part of the story is in the heartland of the Indian subcontinent, in India. And there are two issues that I want to talk about in India. One is the issue of Manipur. So there is a civil war that has been going on in Manipur nearly as long as the war between Russia and Ukraine. There is tension between two tribal communities. One is Mate and the other is Kuki. The Kukis are generally people who live in the mountains. They are of Naga type of, well, I don't understand. There are two different ethnic groups. The Matais are majority Hindus, most of them, and the Kukis are mostly Christian. The government of Manipur is Bharatiya Janata Party, Prime Minister Modi's Hindu Nationalist Party. And when the conflict started in the beginning, the government took sides with the Hindu ethnic group. And since then, the tit for tat has been going on. Just a few days ago, about 6 dead bodies were found of the majority community. And now the government is about to launch a major operation against the Kukis, who are heavily armed. So there have been several hundred deaths. Many hundred churches have been burnt in Manipur. Women have been stripped naked, raped, and paraded, and photographed and videotaped. If you remember last year, there was this massive story about a Kuki woman being stripped naked and being dragged across. So the Hindu-Christian violence in Manipur has been going on for more than a year and a half. And one of the peculiar aspects of this is that the Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, has been traveling all over the world. He's been to places that you wouldn't even expect, like Brunei and Nigeria, but not to Manipur. Apparently, he doesn't care about a civil war that is going on inside his own country. He's more concerned about what's happening in Nigeria and Italy and the United States and in Brunei and Singapore. All over the world, he's been traveling, but he has not been to Manipur since the civil war in Manipur has started. It is both ethnic as well as religious. Hindus try to pretend as if it is just an ethnic issue, but when you talk to Christians here in the United States, they have been protesting a lot about it. You will find that there are clearly Christian and Hindu religious overtones, and a lot of there are some Kuki Christian movements in the United States, and they are looking forward to Marco Rubio becoming the Secretary of State, because Marco Rubio, they know, and he has a record of being very angry and aggressive with countries where Christians are oppressed and punished. The Hindu lobby here in the United States really lobbied very hard, gave a lot of money to Donald Trump to talk about Hindu persecution in Bangladesh. But if you look at the famous tweet of Donald Trump, in that he didn't talk about just Hindu oppression in Bangladesh. He talked about the oppression of Hindus and Christians and people of other religious minorities. That is because the Republican Party is very concerned. And I think that when Marco Rubio becomes the Secretary of State, I think the issue of Manipur will become front and center in the US foreign policy discussions, at least at the State Department level. It already figures very strongly in the human rights and religious freedom reports that the State Department produces.
In India that we've been talking about here, I'm concerned about what appears to be a growing wave of Hindu nationalism that's sweeping the country. As a result, on August 3rd, there's the report of a Christian woman that was confronted with demands that she convert back to Hindu. She refused, and as a result was abused and beaten. There's this horrifying story of a Christian woman who was raped and brutally murdered by two men on August 29th. She was raped in front of her 3-year-old daughter. She suffered multiple stab wounds to her torso and had been strangled with her own sari. Her body was left naked, her screaming child beside her. 2 suspects were arrested. They've both been released, and it's unclear whether they will face any official charges in the future. As a result, India now ranks among the 50 countries, according to an organization called Open Doors International. India now ranks among the 50 countries where life as a Christian is most difficult. The country is actually number 31, largely because of the streak of Hindu nationalism that envisions India as a purely Hindu state. We're concerned about that.
The second story is about Sambhal, where there is a mosque called the Shahi Jama Masjid. And something very, very unusual happened in the past few days. A group of people went to Sambhal and filed a petition in the court claiming that the mosque, the Shahi Jama Masjid, which was built in 1526, was built over a Hindu temple, and therefore they wanted it surveyed. Things don't happen immediately in India, especially in the court system. Sometimes you spend your entire lifetime going to courts to get the courts to even hear your cases. There are people in Indian prisons for the past 6-7 years who haven't even had the bail hearing. But here in this court, the petition was filed on the same day. The judge gave his decision on the same day, ordered a survey of the mosque to see if it is there anything under the mosque. In fact, a friend of mine actually sent me a song, the famous Indian film song, Choli ke niche kya hai, Choli ke niche. So he sent a song basically saying that this is the new anthem of India, Masjid ke niche kya hai, Masjid ke niche. I wanted to play the song, but unfortunately he used the original music track. And so before I could use it, I tested it, and I'm getting a copyright strike. So I will unfortunately not be able to use that particular track. But this is what happened. The court decided to send a survey team. And on that same very day, all these 3 things happen on the same day. In Uttar Pradesh, in Adityanath Yogi, the Bharatiya Janata Party ruled government, nothing is resolved as quickly. But on this day, a petition was filed accusing a mosque to be a Hindu temple in 1526, literally 500 years ago, just 2 years short of that. And on the same day, the judge decided that it should be surveyed. And I'll tell you why that judgment is very important, because it violates the 1991 law, which says that except for the Babri Mosque, which was demolished in 1992, and recently a temple was built in its place and inaugurated by Prime Minister Modi, which has basically triggered all these actions. Except that the 1991 law of religious places, Places of Worship Act basically says that whatever the situation was on 15th August 1947 when India became independent, all religious places, whether they're temples, Hindu temples, which were formerly Buddhist temples, or mosques, which may have been temples, whatever, they will remain as it is for the good of the country, for the harmony of the society, and there will be no other excavation. But this court went ahead and ordered a survey. To what purpose? Except to promote communal violence and discord and disharmony in the country. And then the police went and did the survey. And then 3 days later, which was last Sunday, the police went back there to do another survey. Now, even when the court case was filed, the mosque community did not even have the opportunity to come and speak to the court and present their point of view. So there was nothing heard from the mosque. The petitioners came and claimed that this is, and they could do this about anything. Tomorrow they can come back and claim that the White House is a Hindu temple, and will the courts then say, yes, go ahead? Anyway, they went there Sunday, but this time there were a lot of young people there waiting and protesting. And the police went there with these surveyors, and along with the police went along a large community of Hindu activists, sloganeering and singing songs. And so there was violence. And in the violence, 4 young Muslim men were killed. Now, this has created a huge tension. There was curfew, schools have been closed down. There are interviews with both Hindus and Muslims who are suffering because their businesses have gone down. Basically, nothing good has come out of it. And then the Indian Supreme Court, as usual, very late, they could have taken this decision several years ago, comes out and says, we are not going to speak about the actual substance of the dispute, but what we're going to tell you is that the local court that of Sambhal should not proceed further, and they have given a date to January in 2025 when the Muslim community is allowed to present a counter to the claims. These are the same people who have been making similar claims about the Gyanvapi Mosque and the Krishna Janmabhoomi place. So this is the scenario in Sambhal. There is curfew, there is loss of business, there is dispute and anger, and 4 young people have been killed. The Muslim community feels as if the government, Hindu Nationalist Party, the thugs and gundas who come with them are all stacked up against them. They feel that they are being oppressed by the Hindu nationalists. This is Adityanath Yogi, who had a terrible performance in the Lok Sabha elections recently. And so apparently the whole idea is to create so much of hatred among Hindus and Muslims that you can consolidate the Hindu vote so that in the subsequent elections that are going to happen in Bihar as well as in Delhi, there will be this echo of Hindu ekta, Hindu unity against Muslims because of the violence that has been state-triggered in Uttar Pradesh and maybe subsequently even in Uttar Pradesh elections. So there is a polarization going on. And this is in India, a secular democracy where the prime minister is often condemning fake secularism, but once again, not a single word about. I think Narendra Modi is suffering from some kind of an identity lapse. He's forgotten that he's the prime minister of India and he thinks he's the foreign minister of India. So he's so busy thinking of what my next trip is going to be. I've been to Nigeria, I've been here and there, but I have not been to Manipur. He should have spoken up as a statement and told people to chill and let the courts decide. And even then, there is a law that actually this should not have even been heard. What is the purpose of hearing this if you are not allowed by law to change the status of any other religious place in the country? What I fear is that as India's economy is suffering, even though the growth rate is very high, there is a high unemployment, youth unemployment, especially in the Hindi belt. All the tech stuff is happening in the south or in the west. Gujarat, Maharashtra, and then the southern states are doing well. The GDP of Telangana or Hyderabad is 6 times that of Bihar. So you can see the difference in prosperity and wealth and development inside India. So the idea is that we continue with this kind of, because we're not providing good governance, we're not able to create jobs. There are no foreign investments coming as of the last 2-3 months. There has been decline. All this talk of bringing manufacturing to India is not happening. And the growth really is coming from the government investments in infrastructure, which often benefits very rich people like Adani and other groups who are also now being investigated overseas for corruption. So basically what is happening is that it's quite possible that the economic cookie is going to crumble, and the only reason then for the Hindu Nationalist Party to be winning elections would be through polarization of this, of creating a Hindu vote bank. So there is all this appeasement of the Hindu majority in trying to make them happy by saying, look, we're going to harass Muslims every step of the way. Please vote for us. My fear is that all of India could become like Manipur if attention is not paid, and if anger and hatred towards communities, which is done not just by politicians, but television channels. I'm looking at, even on my community channel, one guy came about today, just an hour ago, and this is what he said. Everyone in your community are counting their days in India. Don't worry. I mean, this is a threat of genocide. I'm just hiding his identity, but I just wanted to show you. You can go and see it's still there unless he comes and deletes. I'm going to leave it there on one of my community posts. And the community post is about an old Muslim man being beaten by a bunch of Hindu thugs because Apparently, he was carrying some meat. And of course, the police does nothing. There is no law, there is no order, there is no protection based on your religion. If you belong to a particular religion, you can beat people of other religion and get away with it. But if you belong to another religion, you could be beaten in public, videotaped, and there is no action by the police. That is India today. And now let's go and talk about Bangladesh. We started with Pakistan, we spoke about India. Let's talk about Bangladesh. There's nothing great that's happening. Things have been really, really bad since August after Sheikh Hasina's government was toppled. There has been a lot of anger and violence, primarily directed against the supporters and party members of Sheikh Hasina. Sheikh Hasina escaped to India, but her party members, I mean, all of them can't leave. So there has been lots and lots of violence. About 650 people, mostly members of the Awami League, have been killed. And because a lot of Hindus were also associated with the Awami League, some of them have been killed because they are officers of the Awami League. But one of the things that Muhammad Yunus has done as the caretaker government advisor or whatever, basically is the de facto ruler of Bangladesh, unelected. What he has done is he has released lots of people who were in jail, people who are associated with Jamaat Islami, people who are religiously very radical and very violent, and they have unleashed violence against Hindus. A lot of it was in August, essentially. To give you some statistics reported by Hindu, Buddhist, and Christian Council, this is a very powerful religious minority council in Bangladesh. According to them, there have been more than 2,000 incidents of attacks against religious minorities. Obviously, since Hindus are the biggest religious minority, they are the biggest target of this violence by basically members of the Jamaat Islami and students who have taken over from the Awami League. But not only that, 69 Hindu temples have been attacked. Some have been completely destroyed, desecrated, and others damaged and vandalized. But over 157 families have been attacked in their homes. And their homes have been looted and vandalized. Their businesses have been put on fire. So there's a lot of looting, anger, and attacks taking place and targeting of Hindu minority in Bangladesh. This has been going on since August, September, October, November. This is 4 months. And Mr. Yunus, an economist, has not been able to bring all of this under control. The Indian Prime Minister has spoken about it. Dr. Jaishankar has issued statements. The Minister of External Affairs, all expressing concern and demanding that the government of Bangladesh do its utmost to protect minorities in India, like Modi's government does to protect minorities in India. So they're demanding that Yunus protect minorities in Bangladesh, obviously, but they are not setting a good example in their own home country that Bangladesh can emulate. And recently, there was this episode of a very prominent and much beloved Hindu priest called Chinmay Krishna Das, one of the persons belonging to ISKCON, International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And he's become the leader and spokesperson organizing the Hindu community against oppression and demanding human rights. And what happened at one of his events is that there was a pole with the Bangladeshi flag, but on top of the pole, there was a saffron flag, which is the kind of flag that RSS and other Hindu nationalist groups in India use. It was one of those kind of flags. So you have a pole with a saffron flag on top and Bangladeshi flag on the bottom. And the government has been so upset by this that they decided to charge him. And they have arrested him and detained him and not given him bail. I mean, this is kind of very, very stupid. So they have basically used an excuse to take him out of the political and public life in the hope that the organization that is taking place among the Hindu community of Bangladesh will be undermined. So they have locked him up. But there was a community that protested instantaneously in the city of Chattogram, which is the second biggest city in Bangladesh. It is, I mean, people like me know it as Chittagong. The harbor is called Chittagong, but the city is called Chattogram. And so there were protests there, and in which a a Bangladeshi government official was actually attacked, and I think he died in the hospital. And so there's a lot of backlash now against Hindus. Several Hindu leaders have been arrested. So there is a systematic oppression taking place. There haven't been so many deaths. So far, the reported deaths are only of 9 people, but 157 families have been attacked and targeted. And this is becoming a bit more complicated because there are a lot of people in India who feel that there's a genocide taking place. So there's a lot of social media campaigning going on. So before the show, I actually did a search to see if there's any major Indian newspaper talking about a genocide of Hindus in Bangladesh. There is none. All these chatter is coming from unknown people on social media, mostly at X and some on YouTube channels. So there is no actual data to say how many people have been killed to claim that it's a genocide. Genocide is the intention to eradicate an entire population. So, people who are like, what, 43,000 Palestinians have been killed. And even that is being disputed by some people as no, it's not genocidal. But here the numbers are very, very low. The total number of people who have been killed are 650. Vast majority of them are Muslims associated with the Awami League. But the fact that Sheikh Hasina is parked in India and the Indian government is opposing the current Muhammad Yunus government, and the Hindus of Bangladesh are also opposing that particular government, it does appear to some Bangladeshis as if the Indian government is trying to orchestrate another regime change in Bangladesh. And the fact that Sheikh Hasina is in India is giving the impression that she is trying to launch a comeback from India with the help of the Indian government. If you remember in the earlier shows that I did on Bangladesh, I had recommended that Sheikh Hasina should not be allowed to stay in India. Neither the Americans want her, nor the British wants her, even though one of her nieces is a member of the British Parliament. So I think that they should have just sent her off to Dubai or Singapore, the two places where she could just go, and she has lots of money, obviously. She could have been there, but staying in India and with all this politics, it will continue to send the impression that India is trying to bring about a regime change in Bangladesh and is using its Hindu population to do that for Sheikh Hasina. And I think that's going to be detrimental. It is going to completely ruin India's relations with its neighbors. Already, India has very bad relations with the two biggest neighbors, China and Pakistan, and then now the next big state is Bangladesh. So India's neighborhood policy is completely shattered. And so, how can you be a global power if you are not even liked and have no good relations in your own neighborhood? So it is going to throw a dent in India's ambitions to become a major power if all its neighbors are becoming anti-it. And remember, this fire of religious hatred is going to be reciprocal. If there is violence against Muslims in India, there will be violence against Hindus in Bangladesh. If there is violence against Hindus in Bangladesh, there will be retaliatory violence against Muslims in India. And so it is in nobody's interest to bring about the entire region into chaos. So I hope that sanity prevails in every one of the major countries in the region. It's already a basket case. It is after Africa, it is the poorest region in the world. The per capita incomes of these countries, India is 2,700, Bangladesh some 2,500. In the last few months, it must have gone way, way below that. And Pakistan is what, 1,006, 1,000. These are really the poorest parts of the world. The only place poorer than South Asia is in Africa. And I think more than half of the world's poorest live in this region. And on top of that, hatred, violence, destruction will undermine growth, will undermine development. What little development is there will also be reversed. As it is, people are leaving the country and trying to run. Every year, literally crores of Indians are running away from India. Most of them are Hindus. They want India to be this great Hindu civilization, but they will live anywhere in the world but India. They're called donkeys. They're coming here every year. We have literally hundreds of thousands of students leaving India for foreign countries in the hope of never going back to India. They're coming here to the US legally and illegally. They're going to UK illegally. They have huge European going to Australia, going to Indonesia. Even the rich ones are leaving and buying citizenships. A lot of rich Indians have migrated either to Canada or to Australia. So the countries, I mean, all these people who are encouraging violence and discord, they don't want their children to live in this country that they govern. And the same is true in Bangladesh. We have so many students who have come to University of Delaware, and the first thing they tell me is that they never want to go back, whether it's Bangladesh or Pakistan or India. And then on top of that, there's this hyper-nationalism where this is the greatest country. Great. Why don't you live there? So there's this huge, strange currents, emotional currents, which are instantly translated into politics and also exploited by really corrupt, shameless, unethical politicians across the board. Across the board. Anyway, so this is why I didn't want to talk about this issue. To me, it's very depressing. Religion is supposed to be a force for good. It is supposed to enlighten your soul, provide you with nirvana, elevate you, bring you enlightenment. But apparently all religion does is hatred of other people. It promotes violence. You're beating old people because of what they eat. You want to go back and settle scores that are 500 years old. So should 500 years from now, if Muslims become a majority in this world, should they take a revenge for what is happening in Sambhal today? So this is a very strange kind of logic. Mahatma Gandhi said, if we believed in an eye for an eye, the whole world would be blind. There has to be forgiveness. There has to be understanding. And there has to be tolerance. We talk a lot about pluralism in India and culture and diversity. Try to show that. I have lots of Hindu nationalists who come and say, oh, our ethics is Vasudeva Kutumbakam, that we believe in the world as our family. Good. Why don't you believe of all Indians as your family? And don't tell me that their values are this or that. Vasudeva Kutumbakam is your values, so you live by your values. Anyway, that's all I have to say for this today. We will continue to talk. Hopefully, I have something interesting to talk to you about tomorrow when the Champions Trophy decision, which has been temporarily postponed by the ICC, will be taken. We'll perhaps talk about that. So until next time, take care, be happy, try to bring peace wherever you are, stop hating others, look at yourself, and try to become a better person tomorrow than you are today. So until next time, I'm your host, Muqtedar Khan. Don't forget to subscribe to Khanversations, like this video, press the bell icon, and share this video with your socio-political network. Take care.